Hey, my name is Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo, and today I'm reviewing Enchanted Plumes, a light little cascading feather builder. I don't really know what you want to call this one, but it has elements of push your luck, elements of set collection, elements of building out your tree, lots of small little fun things going on in this game. And this game is currently on Kickstarter, or will be on Kickstarter shortly, depending on when you watch this video. And I will go into a brief how to play, a brief run through of a few turns, and then from there I'll go into a review and my thoughts and whatnot, and I will see you shortly. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to teach you in Enchanted Plumes is how to score this game, because I think that's the most important thing to seeing how my run-through works and the decisions I'm making. And the way you're going to score Enchanted Plumes is, to begin with, you're going to be building these peacocks, these rows of feathers, and your topmost row is always going to score negative points. So right now I have 0 plus 0 plus 2, so I have a total of 2 negative points. Every subsequent row is positive, which basically means the larger your peacock, the fewer negative points you'll have compared to your positive points. But then the flip side is you might risk not finishing it, which will also be worth bonus points. So in this case, I currently have -2, but then I have 7 and 5 or 12, so a total of 10 points for this peacock. But any peacock you finish is going to be worth 1 point per card in the peacock, so this is going to be an additional 6 points or 16 points for the peacock. Additionally, the restriction you're going to have when you build is that every row, any card in every row, you have to have that card in the row above it as well. So for example, this is a, turquoise card, and I have a turquoise card in the row above it. This is a red card, I have a red card in the row above it. It doesn't have to be touching, it just has to be in the row. And then we have a turquoise card in the bottom, and we have a turquoise card in the row above it, which means as you play the game, you're going to be locking off your choices and making decisions. Now, before we start the game, I'm going to go ahead and shuffle this little guy into the last 10 cards or so. I'm not going to be overly precise, but this guy over here, this endgame card, would go roughly into the last 10 cards, and we're never going to see that because I'm not actually going to be finishing a game. But let's go ahead and play that out. From there, you're going to have 9 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's going to be each player's starting hand. And what you're going to do is you're going to pick 6 cards and put the other 3 in. And so I'm going to make sure I have a low number here. I have a matching high number. That's good. I'm going to definitely keep that as well. I'll keep the 2 and the 3. And I think I'll get rid of the 3, 4, and 4. I'm just going to toss these in over here. Normally I'd shuffle in properly, but I already shuffled in my bottom cards. From there, we're going to lay out 5 cards. Now, on your turn, give me one second over here. On your turn, what you're going to do is you're going to first play 1 or 2 cards to any of your peacocks. So I'm going to start with a 0, and I'm going to choose, based on the cards on the table, I'm going to choose not to play any further cards, and you'll see why in a second. And then from there, you get 2 actions, and you can take those actions in any configuration you want. You can draw a card, you can swap a card with your hand with the card row, or you can do 2 of those in any order. So you can draw 2, swap 2, or draw 1, swap 1 in either order. I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually torn because I really like this 2 and 6 setup. So I'm actually going to give in my 2 and 3 setup and take the 2 and 6 because that is rewarding enough to play off of. And then someone else will take their turn, they're going to draw a card, and they're going to swap in the 2 and the 3 that I just did because maybe they have a 6 in their hand, and I'm going to pretend this is from their hand. They'll have put 2 cards in play. I'm going to try to actually just play my own hand to keep it less confusing, but keep in mind that is a factor in terms of other people making decisions. So now I'm going to go ahead and play a 2, and again, I'm only playing 1 card because I don't want to commit yet. I don't want to go down to the next row, because one thing I forgot to mention, as soon as you start a row, you can no longer build in the prior row. So I want this to be a larger peacock, so I don't want to commit to it just yet. And from there, this time around, I'm going to go ahead and, this is tough. I'm going to go ahead and take that 0, and then I'm going to draw a card over here. Perfect, that's actually pretty nice, so we'll have to see how that plays out. Now again, in a real multiplayer game, I'd be worried about someone taking this. In this case, I'm obviously not. For my next turn, I'm going to go ahead and drop 2 of these. And this is the hard part because I really want both of those cards. So I'm going to drop in the 4 for the 6. I'm going to drop that in to see if I can hopefully just at least lock the 6 in, but I'm also going to draw another card. So those are my 2 replenished, and I got a green 5, which is excellent. For my next turn, I'm going to go ahead and I don't think I want to, I'm going to go ahead and drop a 5 over here. I'm going to keep the 6 for the next row, but I'm going to drop a 6 here. So now I'm starting on my row over here, and then again, I'll draw 2 cards, which is good. These are good numbers, they're low, but I'm going to swap it in to get that 6 soon. Then my next turn, I'm going to go ahead and drop the 5. So you see how I locked out pink, unfortunately, but everything else is still on the table. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to swap in that 1 for that turquoise 4 because I want those 4 points. And then I'm going to draw a card. And then for my next turn, I'm going to go ahead and play this 4 down here, play this 6 down here, and I have these 2 cards for next. I'm just going to draw from the top this time. Perfect, I got a nice finisher. For my next turn, I'm going to play this over here, finishing the peacock, and then I will start a new row, just because why not? And then, great, I'll start another peacock. And that's basically what you're going to be doing throughout the game. You want to be mindful of the fact that you don't want to have a handful of only high cards if you're going to have to start a new pyramid, because a new peacock, because you'll quickly find out that playing a 4 because it's the lowest card in your hand is something that's just straight up not fun to do. And so that's something you have to balance. Ultimately, this game, that's the run through of how it plays. I'll get more to it into my review, but basically the game itself ends up being particularly cutthroat because you're all competing over the same area to a degree. So I might be building up my green cards, knowing that there's only 7 green cards in the deck, well, only 8 green cards depending on the player count, and then you have 4 of them, I have 3 of them, and I'm trying to find that last one to complete my pyramid. The game very much becomes very cutthroat as you make these decisions as you play the game, and from that, let's go into my review. And so that's how you play Enchanted Plumes, and from there let's go into what I liked, didn't like, and what I can see being a problem for others, and then of course my final thoughts. And to begin with, I like the art in this game, and that's with a bit of a caveat that we'll get into the what I didn't like section, but overall the art in this game is fairly pretty. You have these nice little peacock cards, and the back or the front you have these feathers that are very, I guess, simple and yet colorful at the same time, and I appreciate the simple yet attractive art of the game. I also like the short playtime of the game. It comes in consistently in the range of 15 to 20 minutes past that first play, and that has been, for us, we've primarily been playing it at 2, 3, and 4 players. It does play to 5 and 6 as well, so I'm sure that it would, add 5-10 minutes to 5 or 6 player counts, but nonetheless, it is delivering a fairly strategic punch, a fairly enjoyable punch in a relatively short playtime. I like the push your luck feel of the game. I like the fact that the decisions you're making throughout the game are consistently going to revolve around, maybe this card is good for me, but I'll drop it to the middle because maybe my opponent will take it and maybe I'll get a different card out of it, or maybe it'll be there when I want to come back to it later. You're pushing your luck both against the players and against the game, because sometimes you're going to want to top deck something. Maybe I really need a lower number to consistently be able to put something into my pyramid without giving me huge negative points, so I'll just draw 2 cards from the top, hoping against hope that something is there that will help me win. So there's both push your luck against the game, as well as pushing your luck against the players and testing them and yourself to see what will ultimately work for you. And I tend to enjoy that in the game. I also like the fact that it's mean, and this goes hand in hand with the push your luck. And I often say I like mean games, and I should qualify that to a degree, because I don't just like take that mechanics. In fact, I hate to take that mechanics. But I like the decisions you have to make in a game that force players, both yourself and others, into tough choices because of the situation. I like the fact that I might be incentivized to hold a 6 in my hand that you are going for, even though it clogs up my hand, because if I give it to you, not only will you get 6 points, that's the card you've been looking for to complete your pyramid, which will score you another 15 points, and so I'm going to deny you 21 points in my hand, because, well, that will make you win the game. In a game that has scores ranging between 40 and 70 points, 21 points can be a lot of points. And so I like the decisions that you're constantly forced into making in order to min-max your way to the victory. In terms of what I didn't like in this game, to begin with, I guess most of the stuff I didn't like in this game are all surface stuff. Nothing really, from the gameplay itself, there's nothing really that I don't like. There's no mechanical issues in the game. I think the game does a fairly decent job, or more than decent. I think the game does an excellent job at what it's trying to do. What I didn't like are pretty much 2 things, and that's going to be the color clarity of the art. So I already said that I like the art, and I do like the art, but especially at the beginning of the game, and even once you get used to it, there are too many colors that are just a shade too close to other colors. White goes with silver, turquoise goes with blue, purple, pink, and red. There's multiple shades of the green and yellow look identical. So many of these colors, and I will note that the actual center of the feather has its own unique design for anyone colorblind friendly or whatnot, but that would be the center of the feather and not the edges when you have a bunch of cards displayed in your hand. So it will have a little bit, it's colorblind friendly to an extent, but not totally. And even to those who are not colorblind sensitive, there are too many colors that are just a hair too close in shade, and I don't really have an easy solution there. They are trying to, condense 10 different colors here, and so it is a little hard to get a good rainbow of spectrum while staying within colorful things. They're not trying to introduce black or dull colors and whatnot. So I think they did a pretty decent job. but it's still a bit annoying, especially in your first few plays, as you think that you have, oh look, I have 2 yellows there, and you're like, no, that's actually a yellow and a green. The second thing, I didn't like the box art, and I'm being excessively nitpicky here, specifically because I don't actually have a lot that I don't like about this game. While it obviously will not, rival some of the deeper games in my collection, in terms of what it's trying to do, I really, really enjoy. In terms of what I can see others not liking, and this is a category that does not bother me, but I can see it being potentially a problem for others. And the first aspect is that at higher player counts, you may never really have a chance to get your card back. And what I mean by that is when you exchange the card in the middle and take another card, you may never really have an opportunity to get 2 cards. If you're playing a 5 or 6 player game, or even at a 4 player game, it starts to feel like the cards in the middle just are you never really get a full opportunity to get them, because they're moving back and forth so fast that you don't have an opportunity to specialize in different colors. Now, the game does scale for different players by adding more cards of each color the higher the player count is, but you still end up seeing a dilution of those pools. Rather than in a 2 or 3 player game, and again sometimes a 4 player game, you'll be able to focus pretty heavily on one color, and you'll have competition from one player, but it'll be like kind of like 2 players are going for pink rather than 3 or 4 players are going for pink. So higher player counts will see a dilution, which will both add to the cutthroat nature of the game, which can be a good thing, but will also add to feeling like you didn't get an opportunity to get things, possibly just by sheer luck alone. Versus the lower player counts, because people are going to dump cards that they don't want for themselves, you are more likely to see them coming back to you. So yes, sometimes turn order or luck will deny you things. It'll feel less random or less luck of a draw. Second thing I can see others not liking is the fact that it's mean. Now, this is something that I mentioned. I like it, I enjoy it, but yeah, for someone else it can be very depressing when you have that 6 in your hand. Depressing is probably a strong word. It can be frustrating for someone when they see that at the end of the game they were denied 21 points because you were just holding that card in their hand. To me, that's part of what this game is, and I enjoy it. I like that aspect of this game. It's going to be very similar to Arboretum, but at the same time, others won't always like that. It'll sometimes feel a little mean-spirited that you lost points because someone else just held something in a way that didn't even benefit themselves. The next thing is, it very much is an abstract numbery game. Now, while I happen to like that, I happen to think that it works very well for the genre it's in. It's very akin to games like Colorado, No Thanks, or even Herbaceous, which I just recently reviewed. This is going to be a very abstract game. At the end of the day, it's just a bunch of numbers and a little pasted on theme, but if you're not looking for that, well, this is what it is. It's basically a set collection game with a little bit of a twist in the terms of you display your cards, in terms of a twist in the way you have to get cards to the middle. They're taking nothing really new to the table, but they're just combining it in a very nice, simple, elegant package, but that doesn't stop it from being a very abstract game with it's just about collecting cards. That's all it really is. If that's not your thing, this is not going to change your mind, or at least I don't anticipate it changing your mind. The last thing I can see being a problem for others is the luck of the draw, the luck of the opening hand, the luck of the top decking, the player order, and discarding. So to begin with the opening hand, you're going to draw 6 cards. You're going to draw 9 cards and pick and discard down to 6. But yes, one player might have 3 cards of their color. They might have a 0, 6, and 7 of their ideal color, which is an excellent opening start. That means off the bat, you're primed to both start your pyramid and score highly in that pyramid as well. That could be incredible. Meanwhile, someone else only got like 2s and 3s of another color, so they're neither low nor high, and they barely even have colors in common. There certainly will be luck in the opening hand. There'll be luck in top decking. When you draw 2 cards in the top of a deck, one person might draw what they were perfectly waiting for and drop it into their little order or whatnot, versus you might get horrible cards that don't help you at all. And then lastly, player order and the way people discard their cards. If you're constantly discarding pink and I'm sitting to the left of someone who's collecting pink, I'll never see those cards because someone else will get them. So there can be luck in a variety of different elements to this game that, well, I guess if it were a longer game, it would frustrate me more, but to me, that's the nature of this style of game. It's not something that bothers me, it's just, it is what it is, and I'll sit down and play another game because it's another 15-20 minutes. But I can see that being a problem for others. Which brings me to my final thoughts. I really, really, really enjoy Enchanted Plumes. This is a game that I have consistently been playing since I got it. I played it, a bunch of times to get enough material for a review or whatnot, but we have since continued to play it again and again and again. My daughter's been playing with my wife. I've been playing with my wife. I've been playing it with our little group. We've just been pulling out 3 or 4 people, just consistently pulling it out and getting another game to the table. I really enjoy the light screwage of the game, the beautiful building of your tableaus, the constant pushing of your luck. I sat there for like 6 games in a row trying to build a 5-row pyramid, meaning 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because everyone was doing 4s and they were finishing them, and I really wanted to get that 5, and I kept on losing and losing and losing, and I finally, one game I got it, and I scored a ton of points, which is a little bit of a luck of the draw of trying to figure out that perfect balance. But there are a lot of decisions to be made in this game in terms of when you play your cards, whether you play 1 or 2 cards a turn, because 2 cards would seem like it's ideal, but it will often cripple you because you have to have a card to play. Playing your cards you can play too quickly will stop you from being able to play the cards when you actually need to play them. So a lot of interesting decisions to be made there that I really appreciate about this game. Enchanted Plumes is a game that I have thoroughly enjoyed. It will be going on my shelf right next to No Thanks, right next to Arboretum is one I mentioned. So it does share many similarities to Arboretum. It's a little bit less thinky in the way the cards play out in terms of building out these trees the way you do in Arboretum, but it shares the aspects of just being a pretty light card game with light screwage as different players compete for sets of different colors. Lots of similarity, lots of overlap while managing to feel completely different, and I ultimately am happy to own both in my collection. Lastly, as far as longevity, something I started adding to my reviews, I believe this is a game that will stay in my collection for quite some time. The biggest problem with it is that there's no real variability. Ultimately, the game is exactly the same every single time, and when it's coming in at 15 to 20 minutes, that means that if I continuously get it to the table again and again, at a certain point, I will feel a little bit bored and look for something else. I don't think that's going to be a problem because the small box size, combined with the rewarding play, means it's probably going to be very similar to No Thanks on Colorado for me. Both of those are also games that share no real variety, but have lasted in my collection a long time, and I will go through spurts of pulling them out, playing a bunch of games, going back on my shelf, pulling it out, playing a bunch of games. I think this will very much fall into that category. For right now, I'm highly enjoying Enchanted Plumes, and I do recommend giving it a check, giving it a look, see if it's for you, check it out on Kickstarter, all that stuff. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo. If you have any questions that I can answer about this game, let me know in the comments down below. I'm happy to jump in, whether it's a game that's like this, like that, for you. Anything I can do, I will happily do. I'm Alex, and have a good one.